Hey, so hi everyone. This is Mason Morin with Pinnacle Realty Advisors. Today I have Tim Herman with us from UpEquity. Tim, welcome.
Jason, thanks for having me. I'm excited to be here.
Thank you. And if you wouldn't mind, I guess I'll introduce myself a little more depth. I work with our growth and success teams here at Pinnacle. And so what that means is we are always looking for more agents to join our brokerage. And we're also here to be self-serving and, through servant leadership and also looking to really help agents grow, thrive, be successful, and stay with Pinnacle for the rest of their careers. And so with that said, I would love for you to kind of share a little bit about your background, what you do at UpEquity, anything you want to share, I'd be happy to hear it.
Sure. First of all, I really love that you're dedicated to servant leadership. So my background, I spent the first decade of my career as a fighter pilot in the Navy, and through that service to our country, one thing that was deeply ingrained in myself and the other officers and fellow service members was this idea of servant leadership and the idea that you owe the people that follow you much more than they owe to you, and just all the responsibility that goes on with that. So it's great to hear that you and Pinnacle are dedicated to servant
Thank
leadership.
you. Yeah.
And so when I was on active duty and flying, I flew F-18s and F-35s off of aircraft carriers around the world, which I get a lot of credit with my 6-year-old now that Top Gun 2 came out. So that's that's fun. Um, but as I was moving around, my wife and I got actively involved in buying and selling single family real estate. And we saw all of the reasons that homeownership is the cornerstone of the American dream. But we also saw that there were some of the infrastructure involved with getting into a home or getting into a new home that were broken, right? And I quote this statistic that HousingWire has, that buying a house is so stressful that it leaves 40% of home buyers in tears. And I'm sure Pinnacle agents, nobody's ever been in tears because of the great service that you guys provide. But unfortunately, I've lived and breathed that. My wife has been in tears on the stoop of our first home as the military movers were unpacking. We didn't have the keys. I've gone down a little bit of a rabbit hole now, but so I had that background. I got out of the Navy, went to business school, and knew I wanted to found a company. Found a company that solved meaningful problems in big markets, and this is the most meaningful problem in the biggest market that I knew of. And so I actually raised some money, dropped out of business school halfway through, and founded this company. And now I'm the CEO.
Nice. You know, something that we don't always talk about is literally how stressful buying and selling a house is. I mean, um, I know from market to market, everything is different, but the reality is it's never like it's so easy where you just like come in and, you're selling and you don't have to clean your house or you don't have to like, you're gonna all of a sudden have 50 offers to choose from. Like it's never like that. It doesn't matter what type of market it is. It's always super stressful. And it's extremely emotional. And I just can't believe, um, you know, it is how it is. It's just amazing.
So it's ultimately like crazy stressful when you're buying a house or selling a house independently. But if you're trying to do both at the same time and coordinate the two, it gets exponentially worse. And I don't want to be self-serving and dive into our product right away. What I want to focus on is the two things that you said, right? Is that it's stressful and that it's emotional, right? And the reason I want to focus on that is because that is why we believe in the future of the real estate agent. Like the market is shifting, the market is changing, that people demand more from everything that they get in life, all of the service providers that they have. And there are those who have raised money in Silicon Valley that have tried to come in and say that agents shouldn't be at the center of this transaction, or that lenders shouldn't be at the center of the transaction. We fundamentally disagree with all of that, right?
Mhm.
It's such a stressful, such an emotional, such a high stakes, low frequency decision in somebody's life that there needs to be an agent involved in that transaction. in order to walk people through that emotional journey and keep people rational and keep people out of their own way and give people the confidence to make these huge decisions. So I love what you guys are doing at Pinnacle, and just want to say that we have the same philosophy around keeping the agent at the center and always having the agent at the center of this transaction.
Yeah, and not to talk about Pinnacle right off the bat too, but it's just interesting because no one truly understands what we're doing, or they think that, I don't know, something's we're trying to completely change things because our model is different and pricing and whatever. And the reality is we're not really changing anything. You still have a broker, you still have all of these things. I think the biggest change is just that you're not going into an office every day. And to be honest, if you're a great real estate agent, you're not going into the office every day. You're showing properties and you're out and about and you're working from your car all day long. So it's really interesting how, you know, there are things that disrupt the industry, and some things are for positive, and some things are, well, some are negative, but I mean the reality is like everyone's looking for their place and what's going to work for them. And for us, we feel really confident, with the model that we have, because all of our leadership at our brokerage are all real estate agents. They all have a real estate history. It's not like it's some Silicon Valley company coming in and saying, let's try to do something. We have money to spend, let's spend it. Like, that's not who we are. So I really do love that. But then speaking about other like tools and tech things that are going on, are there any other things specifically related to mortgage or lending or anything that you would kind of recommend or like to speak on a little more?
I think that the biggest thing is that there's a lot of noise out there in the ecosystem, right? And it's hard to differentiate between what company has a service that believes in servant leadership and that believes in being customer focused and keeps the greater good of the customer at their core. And it's hard to differentiate those from the companies that are a little bit um, uh, not as customer centric, right? It's
Mm-hmm.
also hard to make it to differentiate what is the ultimate strategy and distribution of this new player in the space. Because I think touching on what you were just talking about around there's disruption and some of it's good and some of it's bad. I would more characterize it as there's disruption where some of it is trying to replace the incumbents and others is trying to build up the incumbents, right? And I
Mm-hmm.
think that with both of those topics, um, Pinnacle and UpEquity is aligned. And the reason that I say that is I think that both you and us, we're trying to build a layer of technology and services that create value for all of the existing players in the ecosystem, right? You're trying to give a best in class service to agents. We're trying to give a best in class service to agents and to lenders and to title companies, as opposed to trying to replace them and vertically integrate. And then the second piece of that is what I really believe in your model is that you're vetting all of these services for your ultimately your agents are like your clients, right? And so you're helping them sift through all the noise of what are the 4,000 different document signing tools out there, what's the best communication tool, what's the best technology layer that you can use for your CRM, or for us, what's the best buy before you sell solution that you could have out there, right? Because there's so much innovation happening that we need to have a positive sum mindset and help each other out.
Yeah, and I think going back to something you said a little bit earlier, there are so many tools out there, and the way that I see it is, as an agent, you really want to work with the tools and you want to be ahead of it because you want your clients to know and understand that you have all of these tools and resources available to you. And the thing that we always tell agents or people is like, let the experts be the expert.
Right.
But the fact that you can provide this expert advice to your clients is kind of priceless, because then they always know they come to you, you can send them off to whatever tool or resource it might be,
Right.
which would ultimately really kind of get them to, their client happiness, if you will. Um, but I did want to kind of just talk about happiness, client happiness, and like how there's just like so many challenges. And so I'm just curious, like, what kind of obstacles are out there that you think people, our clients, are facing, and like how we can really, I guess, combat those as real estate agents, and people that are being servant leaders.
Yeah, sure. So I think of this in kind of two different buckets, right? The first bucket is the broader macroeconomic uh, trends, headwinds, if you will, that everybody's facing. And I think that those obstacles are volume, macroeconomic uncertainty, and a shift to survival mode, right? And so with the volume, I'm sure that everybody that's watching this is well aware that as interest rates went from 2.5% to 7% over the fastest time in history, that the demand dropped off, but that also everybody's familiar with the term seller strike and the fact that you have people that are locked into a home that may not still be right for them and might not be the right situation for their family, but they think, hey, I have a 2% mortgage, 3%, 4% mortgage. If I move across town to a 7% mortgage, my payment just doubled, right? And so what has happened is that we have this incredible constraint on supply, and all of this masks the fact that the underlying reality is that we haven't built enough housing in this country for 20 years, right? Remember 2 years ago in 2021, 2022, when there were 50 offers on every home, everybody was talking about how we haven't built enough housing, we don't have enough supply. That hasn't changed just because mortgage rates went up, right? And so you have this supply and demand imbalance that is leading to volume problems for everybody, but it also makes coordinating the purchase and the sale of a home even more difficult, and it means that you need to rely on an expert like a realtor more often. And I'll talk about the specifics around that a little bit later, because that's what we do, that's what we help
Mhm.
realtors. The second is the macroeconomic uncertainty, right? When inflation's out of control and banks are failing, people start to become fearful, and it becomes harder for them to make decisions, and they become a little bit irrational, right? And it's what's really interesting to do is to look at the data and realize that if you could hold a house for any period of time, there's never been a bad time to buy a house in the last 100 years in America, right? There are times where, a year or two later, you might have been underwater if you were just looking at the home. But if you compared the home to rent increases, and you looked at the tax advantages and you looked at everything else, you've always been better off, even at the height of the housing crisis, being a homeowner. And then if you wait a couple more years, that housing price comes back. By the way, you locked yourself into the payment from 4 years ago, 5 years ago, 6 years ago, whatever it is. And so I think that what's really important as an agent is to understand the way that inflation and interest rates interact with each other, so that you can be a really good steward for your clients and help them get over that irrational fear that a lot of people have right now. Right? It's like we always say, and we're no longer focused on mortgage lending, but we still always say, you marry the house, you date the rate, right? Is if interest rates stay high, that means that inflation is still out there, and that means that if you didn't buy, houses are getting more expensive, uh, and rent is getting even more expensive. On the other hand, if if we get inflation under control, interest rates will come down and you can refinance, right? So I think that's a really
Mhm.
important set of information for realtors to guide their clients with. And then understanding that everyone in the ecosystem has gone to survival mode. it means that you're going to be getting less innovation and less of the service that everybody has come to demand from a vast majority of the players in the
Hmm.
ecosystem. Right? We have a new generation of consumers, whether and it's irrespective of age, right? Is people have gotten used to on-demand car service, on-demand grocery
Hmm.
grocery delivery, on-demand Netflix, all of it. People want it and they want it now, but your partners are feeling cash constrained, and so there's less innovation in the ecosystem as well.
Yeah, so true. I was just talking, well, we talked a little bit about my flight getting canceled and how, I mean, there was two of us. One of us is Google searching, how to get there, and then the other one's on the phone with the airline. And it's like they're like, well, we don't know, blah blah blah. And it's like, I see this flight number and this flight number. Can I get on that flight? And they're like, oh yeah, we can do that. It's like I had the information before they even had the information because they didn't understand my scenario, but I saw it and I was like, hey, can I do this? And they're like, yeah, we'll do it. So it is truly interesting, and times have changed. I mean, it's not like back in the day when the broker had like the MLS book, and it was like
Right.
you had to go there. I mean, you can log in and do any kind of search online, and you have all the information you need. But
Well, and so
okay.
agents and brokers are going to have to evolve with that, right? Because the
Hmm.
value that you create, I think that the value that you create is more than it's ever been, but it's different than it's ever been.
Hmm.
When you owned the MLS book and you owned the information, a client had to come to you to find their home.
Hmm.
We just bought a home. We used a realtor, great realtor, good friend of ours. We found the home on Zillow, right? But my realtor and his partner still created enormous amount of value helping us make a compelling offer, helping us understand the comps, helping us understand the neighborhood. Um, I think that the value that you create is more than ever, but you have to uh, shift your mindset about where that value creation uh, is created.
So speaking of value, let's talk about UpEquity's value. What
Sure.
maybe first, if you want to just kind of give me your elevator pitch, the short thing, and then we can kind of dive in a little deeper, or have more discussion about it.
Sure. So what we do is we partner with real estate companies to remove contingencies from their offers so that they can get deals that are stuck in their pipeline across the finish line, right? And we're really focused on the problems that are created by trying to buy, sell, and move at the same time, right? We w- we want to give you and your clients the tools to buy their next house before they sell their current one, right? And you and I were talking a little bit earlier about what are the obstacles that are in your way when you're trying to buy and sell at the same time. And the way that we think about that is that there's three obstacles. Number one is most people can't qualify
Hmm.
for a mortgage on their new home until they sell their current one. Number two, most people can't make the down payment on the new home when their equity is locked in their old home.
Yeah.
And number three is that people, whether or not they can qualify, from a cash flow perspective, it's really hard to make two mortgage payments at the same time.
Hmm.
Right? And so the way that people solve that right now is by making a contingent offer, right?
Hmm.
And Mason, you work with this all the day. What do you see? How do sellers respond to contingent offers?
I'd rather take a non-contingent offer that's $5,000 less.
That's right. And actually, it depends on the size of the home, right? Whether
Hmm.
it's $5,000 or $50,000 or $100,000 less, right? And it turns out that it's actually rational, and there's a lot of statistics um, um, that support this conversation, which is if you can remove the home sale contingency from an offer, you are four times more likely to have that offer accepted, and you can get under contract for 2 to 4% less than you otherwise would have had to offer to get under contract.
But also, just from a listing agent's point of view, you're constantly trying to make sure the stars are aligning with the closings and all this stuff. And it's the biggest headache where if you didn't have to worry about that, I mean, I feel like that's like 90% of the headache as we're getting closer and closer to closing. Like will it fund? Is it going to close? And, da, 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 and
Right.
yeah,
And that's where the tears start flowing, right? That's where
exactly.
you say, "Hey, my mortgage is ready to go, but the guy buying my house or the girl buying my house, they screwed it up, and now, there's this whole chain reaction of people that are out of commissions, that have their stuff in storage, or they're doing multiple moves, and so that's why it's really rational for people to um, prefer to not have a home sale contingency. But I'll even go further than that. It's rational for a lot of what we see is that our partner realtors have clients that are stuck on the sideline, that they're in the wrong home, that they're so worried about, are they going to be able to get under contract for a new home after they sell their current one? Or are they going to be homeless, right? Are they going to be moving in with in-laws or into an Airbnb? And so they get clients that are stuck on the sideline. We literally had a realtor in Northern California who, when she started working with us, had 7 separate clients that were paralyzed by this fear of buying and selling and moving at the same time, that came off of the sideline, worked with her, and so she got 14 new deals, right? Because she got the buy and the sell, just from alleviating this problem for those clients.
Hmm. I also just look at it, like you said, with not having the down payment. I'm just running through this scenario in my head. Let's say I don't have the down payment, so I have to sell my house, but then I keep getting beat out, by all these offers that are non-contingent. So I'm like, okay, I'm just gonna sell my house, pack it up, move out into a 3 month rental or something, or longer, because by the time I find my house and whatever, and then I have to move again.
Right.
Like, it's so crazy to think. I hate moving. I would want to move once, let alone twice, within a short time period. It's just super chaotic.
Yeah, I think that buying a house, having a newborn, and moving are the 3 most stressful things that you can do. Unfortunately, I've done all 3 of them at the same time, multiple times, but that's a story for a different time.
Wow. So I guess if we can speak a little bit to like the partnership that we have between Pinnacle and UpEquity, like what does that mean for our agents specifically? I mean, I know any agent can actually use UpEquity, and they should use it, trust me. Alleviate a lot of the tears, as you said. But like, do you mind elaborating a little bit on the partnership that we have and what that means for Pinnacle agents?
Sure. So there's a couple things that it means. Number one, it means that we actually have a revenue share program. So your agents can make money, and it's RESPA compliant revenue sharing, for selling a value add, or excuse me, introducing a value add service to their clients. So the revenue share is one. And you only get that with Pinnacle or with another brokerage that has a partnership with us. Number two, is we do have a launch bonus. So another way to make extra money. We'll pay the agents if they do some volume in the first couple months of the partnership. Number three is a level of white glove support. Each of your agents is going to have a dedicated account executive. So they have a person that they can call day or night, anytime of the week, and get support with the deals that they need to get across the finish line. And then number four is marketing support, right? We have co-branded marketing support, and a one-stop shop that they can. I don't know, what do you guys call your technology interface that everybody is
Pinnacle
on?
HQ?
Pinnacle HQ, right? You can, through Pinnacle HQ, get directly to the one-stop shop that has all of the marketing, application, scripting, support that you need. And so those are some of the benefits of the partnership with Pinnacle. And then I alluded to it earlier, right? Is that you guys have looked at all of the buy before you sell solutions, and obviously I'm biased, but came to the conclusion that I agree with, which is that we're the best buy before you sell solution for the agents.
Yeah, I did spent a little time in the space myself, and yeah, it's really interesting I love what you guys are doing, and I can't begin to explain how nice it is to have this tool in your tool belt. It's just um honestly, even if you feel like your clients don't need it, I still think it's worth exploring to have the conversation because it just alleviates so many headaches, so many tears. It's so great. Um, for our agents, as you had mentioned, they can go to Pinnacle HQ to get all the information there. Specifically, more information on how the rev share works and things like that. Um, for your own plug and for your own sake, if someone's not a Pinnacle agent and they want to do that, where would they go? Like we said, there's not going to be the same rev share and stuff like that, but still, where would they go to get more information about the
If,
company?
if you just go to upequity.com, um, you can apply directly there.
Awesome. And then
Or they should join Pinnacle, get access to the rev share, and just get there through Pinnacle HQ.
thanks. I appreciate that. I'm always recruiting agents, so I'm trying to be mindful of not always giving the Pinnacle spiel all the time.
Sure.
But yeah, I do appreciate that, and we feel really fortunate that we're able to offer such a high level service with not a ton of fees. I feel really, really fortunate. Because I have always worked in the service industry, and I've always enjoyed helping people. I get gratification out of helping people, and so it's been really gratifying working for Pinnacle Realty Advisors and seeing all of the success that has come out of it. So I feel really, really fortunate. And honestly, all of the partnerships that we have, like with UpEquity and whatnot, are just like another layer of happiness for me because it's just so great to see our agents thrive and use these types of tools and they don't have to be experts in lending or how it works or like how am I able to do this. It doesn't matter. Like UpEquity will be there to support you
Right.
throughout all of that stuff. And so that's really what I love
Your guys'
about.
job is hard enough, right?
Right.
It's hard enough to be that emotional, the therapist and the advisor and the transaction coordinator. Like it's hard enough, and things change so quickly. I don't want to ask um, you to do more. I want our team to help make these transactions incredibly smooth.
Yeah. And that was my number one ask when we were first talking is like, what is the support like? Because I would never want to recommend something unless I knew there was great support and you guys answered that and came through for us. So it was really great. I really appreciate that. Um, Let me ask you one last question, maybe, and unless it goes down a rabbit hole of many more questions. Um, are there any other for agents that are skeptical, are there any other things that we haven't talked about, or maybe some issues that you've heard agents ask questions about, or something that you might want to clarify just a little bit more about how UpEquity works, or anything at all? I know it's a really open-ended question, but I'm gonna leave it out there for you.
Yeah, so I think that there's two things that we typically get, right? The first one is this sounds too good to be true. How are you screwing me over? How are you screwing the client over? Um, and what I would say is, um, I used to give this long speech around all of the ways that we can use our technology to reduce cost and that we can reduce the risk and when I nobody actually cares about that, right? The truth of the matter is that we've done hundreds of transactions and we have a 5-star rating, and that the proof is in the pudding, right? Is if you talk to the other agents in your network, or if you talk to Mason or Sam, uh, you can actually talk to people that have used us, that see that we deliver on the service that we talk about, because anybody can talk the talk, but really what matters is when you deliver on the things that you say that you're going to do and that you walk the walk. The second piece is the revenue sharing, and you to your credit, put me through the paces on this, right? is skepticism around whether or not the revenue sharing is RESPA compliant. And so while I'm going to caveat this with saying that I'm not a lawyer and that I am not giving anybody legal advice, and consult everybody for your own legal advice. We've spent lots of time and money on RESPA expert lawyers, right? And what they have said and what our company's stance and belief is that RESPA only applies to transactions where there's a federally related mortgage loan involved, right? And when we're purchasing that departing residence, we're not using a federally related mortgage loan. We're the ones buying the home, we're using private capital. And so, because there's not a federally related mortgage loan being used on that transaction, RESPA actually doesn't apply to it. So that's like the end all be all of why it is okay to rev share. Even if we're wrong about that, though, there are exceptions to RESPA, right? You can pay people for services that are necessary, actual, and distinct, right? And since there is an extra um, layer of stuff going on, there are extra services that are actual, necessary, and distinct. And by the way, I'm the buyer of the home, not a settlement provider at that point. We can compensate you for that as well. And so that's kind of why uh, our lawyers are telling, or that's what our lawyers are telling us about RESPA.
Nice. Yeah. I really appreciate you clarifying that because there's nothing worse than I feel like in real estate, it's just a matter of time before someone's mad at you or whatever. And it's just so nice to have all your ducks in a row because you just don't want to deal with any of that headache down the road. So I really, really appreciate you explaining that in detail. Even though I don't want to get in the weeds of it, but I love it. I really appreciate it. I do want to wrap up, and I just want to say two last things, and I'll kind of let you do your own blurb or whatever it may be. But I think the similarities between our two companies, even though we're completely different companies, is we both are looking to help people. Yours are going to be the clients, where ours is going to be the agents. And then the second thing is really around the service itself, the service and the support itself. And for me, those are like the biggest things that I can actually, that's what I look for whenever I'm wanting to use a service or whatever it may be, is like, are they really here to help me, and what is the support going to be like? And so that's really what I enjoy about what y'all are doing as well as what we are doing. And obviously, you and I are both biased to our own companies, but the bottom line is we do genuinely care. We are there to support everyone. um and yeah, we're so happy to have this partnership. um Not only because our agents can get a little bit of the rev share, I think that's an added bonus, but the reality is it's truly helping their clients. And with this helping their clients, then that ultimately will create a better experience for the client. And then that is, agents lifeline is like getting referrals all the time. And I think, the happier you can keep your client, the more referrals you'll be getting. So that's it from me. But if you have any other last plugs or thing that you want to say, please share, and
No, I couldn't have said it better myself. Thanks for having me.
yeah, thank you so much. And for everyone that's still stayed tuned to watch and listen, thank you so much. Also, Tim is a good friend of Pinnacle, so I'm sure if you stay tuned and follow along with Pinnacle, you'll be seeing more of Tim as well. So thanks again, Tim. Really appreciate it.
Thank you.
All right.